Welcome back, everybody. Tonight I've got a toy review for Power of the Prime's leader class, Nemesis Prime. This toy is an Amazon exclusive, at least here in the US. It's been pretty highly anticipated since its existence was first leaked on the internet a while back. It is a retooling of the Power of the Prime's Optimus Prime toy from earlier this year. And with this release being a special edition, they've really gone above and beyond as far as, retooling things and even adding new parts to it. So we're going to take a look at this guy tonight. I'm going to compare him with the Optimus Prime toy so you can see how they contrast, how they compare to each other. And hopefully this will help some people decide whether or not they want to pick this one up. Here we have the box to look at. And one thing you may or may not be able to tell from this video, this box is actually good amount bigger than the standard leader class size box for the Generations line of Transformers. And it was made bigger to accommodate all the extra accessories the toy has. So it has this really nice artwork of Nemesis on the front here. Talks about his evolution gimmick. Got in the background you have the wheel with the 12 Prime Masters, the Matrix in the middle. On the side you have a picture that has Nemesis Pax, which is a smaller robot form, and his little sword transformer partner named Giza. We'll talk about him more. Back of the box, standard fare, shows off the different forms, talks about his evolution gimmick, shows his Matrix right here, transforms in 35 steps total, so pretty impressive. I like my toys nice and complex and articulated, so I'm okay with this. The little blurb up here says, if Optimus Prime is the universe's shining beacon, his evil clone Nemesis Prime is its doomsday black hole. A little hyperbolic. He possesses the same strength and intelligence as the Autobot leader, but is vile and without remorse, and driven to eliminate all in his path. So it's a very generic description of Nemesis Prime, kind of fits the bill of every iteration of the character. What we can't really tell from this box is whether or not this is meant to be an existing Nemesis Prime or just an entirely new version. If anyone knows anything about the history of that character, he kind of tends to just pop up in different continuities, hopping across dimensions and stuff, and sometimes he's the same guy, sometimes he's not. So I don't even know if any thought was given to that when they designed this toy, or if they just wanted to make a cool Nemesis Prime toy. Who knows? Probably the latter. This side has your 12 Prime symbols, like all the other Generations ones do. Nothing special here, nothing special there. Some miscellaneous info. Nemesis Prime's instructions are really big. Nice full-size booklet here. Opens way up. Shows all the different transformations. Shows off his gimmicks and stuff. Here's his vehicle mode. And just like Optimus, of which he is a clone, he turns into a semi-truck. Now, if you saw my review for the Optimus Prime toy, you already know my feelings on this mold as a whole, and that I'm a fan of the robot modes. They both look really nice, but the vehicle mode is by far the weakest link. It was definitely really sacrificed for the whole evolution gimmick, and has a really hard time passing itself off as a realistic semi-truck. Something resembling a Peterbilt from the 80s. But one thing this toy does better than Optimus is because it's cast in almost all black, a lot of the more glaring issues like the arms on the back of the semi and this top of the big robot's chest here, they're not as noticeable because they all just blend in together. So I feel like this version of the toy really pulls off the vehicle mode a lot better. You can see he's got a lot of accessories stored on the trailer here. He's got the cannon, the same one that comes with Optimus Prime, stored in the same spot. It's kind of in the top of the trailer. But then he also has these two swords, which are attached right here. And we'll talk more about those. And then he has these big double cannons, which also kind of look like smokestacks in a way. And one thing you can see is that you have these open panels here, because in order to accommodate these, you have to open a section of the trailer. And it's not a fan mode. The instructions actually call it out to do that. So if you want a cleaner looking trailer, you could always take it off if you want to. Now, one thing this toy excels at is being multiple homages to different versions of Nemesis Prime, Optimus Prime. So the first of these many homages are the cannons on the trailer. They end up being a pretty noticeable reference to the Power Master Optimus Prime. Both the original toy and the more recent Titans Return one that had these large cannons attached to the side of the trailer like that. Here he is alongside Optimus Prime. And you can see they contrast each other very well, whereas Optimus is bright colors and multicolored. Nemesis is just black. I mean, he really is just a shadow of Optimus Prime, which I think is a great motif for him, considering his origins as a clone of Optimus. What I was saying earlier about him having his parts blend together a lot better definitely holds true. Here's the infamous arms on the truck. I mean, this basically the back half of the truck just doesn't even look like a truck. It just looks like tucked in robot arms. And then here's that like chest piece that just looks really out of place on the trailer. So you got to see what I was talking about there. One thing that's also a bit of an advantage that Nemesis has is, whereas Optimus has these very clear windows, which, you know, while they're nice, you can very clearly see his matrix inside, which kind of ruins the illusion of this turning into like a drivable truck that a human being can sit inside of. Because Nemesis's red windows are darker and more tinted, it's harder to make out what's inside of there. So it does keep up the illusion of an actual functional truck a little bit better. All right, now that we've looked at the vehicle modes, I'm going to go ahead and change him to his first robot mode. All right, and here's Nemesis Pax. He's a pretty, you know, lithe, agile-looking little robot. Kind of rounded features as opposed to the usual blockiness of the old G1 style Transformers. You know, it's got the Windows backpack thing that Orion did. Can wield the large Optimus / Nemesis Prime rifle in 2 pieces as 2 smaller guns here in this form. Looks pretty good doing that. It's got, from what I can tell, 3 stickers. 1 on each shin, and then he's got his Decepticon symbol on the shoulder there. And they all seem to be pretty reasonably well applied. You can see a lot of his nice teal shining through there. Teal is kind of the other color that Nemesis Prime is known for, aside from obviously the black. And his head is a brand new sculpt, completely separate from Orion's. And it's like this little spiky, kind of bug-eyed mini Optimus Prime head. So it looks a lot more like his larger robot mode's head than Orion's does. From what I can tell, the specific design itself is original. I don't think it's a direct homage to anything. Just kind of a stylization of his larger head that you'll see here soon. Here he is next to Orion Pax, just so you can see the differences between them. Sticker layout's very similar. Orion's just, he has his faction symbol on his chest rather than his shoulder, but the shin stickers are almost identical. Paint layout's a little bit different between them. And these two are pretty good contrast to each other. Initially, I was not sure how I felt about the choice in head sculpt. I am happy it's not the same head as Orion Pax, but I thought they might make it something similar maybe. You know, just a more evil looking version of Orion's face. Instead, they kind of opted for a different approach, which is not bad, like I said. Find the head a little weird looking, almost movie-verse-like, but it's not bad. It's unique, so I like it. One thing I will say I'm a little disappointed about is honestly just the name they chose, the Nemesis Pax. It's fitting, you know, he's supposed to be like an evil Orion Pax, or, you know, an evil shadow of him. And it does kind of play well into the whole Nemesis Hot Rod thing. But honestly, I wish they would have been a little more creative. Personally, I think they could have really even further driven home the whole homage game if they had named the small robot Scourge, as in the Robots in Disguise character that was pretty much the original Black Optimus. It would have been a nice little double homage, especially if you decide to arm him with, say this sword here. It would really kind of drive the reference home, but missed opportunity, if you ask me. I don't know, what do you guys think? You happy with the name they went with, or would you have liked to see something else? Alright, before I show off Nemesis Prime's full robot mode, I'd like to show you Giza, his little sword partner. So Giza here turns into, what appears to be some sort of bird. And he is one of Nemesis's many references. This one being to an arms micron from the Japanese Transformers Prime toy line of the same name, Giza, who, just like this one, turned into a weapon for that Nemesis Prime. So, just want to see how he does his thing. You just kind of flip his tail up, close the wings together, and bam, he's a sword. And pretty competent looking one. This is a kind of a step up from the Arms Micron toys, which were kind of build-it-yourself little kits. Feels a lot more solid. It's got the painted eyes, which is a nice touch. Alright, on to Nemesis. And at last we have Nemesis Prime himself. This big, intimidating clone of Optimus Prime just has so much going on in this large robot mode that it's kind of hard to remember to name it all, but I already showed off Giza here, his little Micron buddy. This sword is a reference to the very original Nemesis Prime from the Transformers Armada cartoon that wielded a kind of eerie, glowing red replica of the Star Saber. Now, the sword originally went unnamed and was later given the name the Vorpal Saber, though the product description for this toy calls it the Dark Saber. So, I guess they went with the more recognizable term, but it is meant to be the same one wielded by Armada Nemesis Prime. And speaking of Armada Nemesis, those cannons from his trailer are now attached to his forearms here. And they do that specifically to mimic the little smokestack cannons from the Armada Optimus / Nemesis Prime design. So it's a very nice touch, a really good homage, good callback to the very first Nemesis Prime they ever made. And it also serves to just bulk him up more, give him a more intimidating visage than Optimus. And then you may also notice here on the back he's got the gun. And this is the official placement of it. It's where the instructions tell you to put it. Just kind of peg it into that fist hole there. So he has, a place to store it while he's wielding his swords. That way you have some options on how you want him to be displayed. Now you could, if you want this big, obtrusive rifle, just kind of stick it over your shoulder, you could separate the gun into the two pieces and peg each piece into each side there. Make them a little more symmetrical. Kind of give them the appearance of some extra smokestacks there on the back. Up to you. Anyone that's watched me for a while knows I'm not really big on fan mode, so I'll just leave it the way it is, but either way, pretty good. Now this toy, or at least my copy of it, does have some tolerance issues compared to the original mold. There are some parts that are a little bit looser on this one, which I don't know if I'm just unlucky or if it's a sign that the mold is already starting to degrade a bit. But probably the one that bothers me the most is these arm panels here. Now, they're supposed to push all the way in and kind of click into place, so they're very flush. They don't, point outward at all. But this toy, no matter how much force I apply, they will not snap into place. The tolerance is just off just enough to where it won't work the way it's supposed to. My regular Optimus doesn't have that issue, so that's a shame. To give you a good look at his face, it's an all new sculpt there, very angular, almost kind of serpentine in its design there. And you may be able to see, if my camera won't focus on my finger, there's kind of a black spot right on the front edge of his mouth plate, and I can't tell if that's where paint got scraped off or if there was just an error in applying the paint because of how much of a kind of a sharp edge that front of his mouth plate is. So I don't know how common that issue is. So if this head sculpt does look familiar to anybody, you may be thinking of the club exclusive Toxitron figure, who was released by the Transformers Collectors Club and was made with a head sculpt that went unused by Hasbro for the Motor Master mold. And that head sculpt looked almost exactly like this one. It's not the exact same, but it's very, very close. You know, so they kind of had it in their back pocket in case they wanted to make a Nemesis Prime toy that never did materialize, mainly because Takara went and made a Grand Scourge from the same mold. So I guess they just decided it wasn't worth it to do Nemesis. But the club eventually did convince Hasbro to let them use that head sculpt, and they made it into the different character Toxitron, which I do have, but unfortunately is packed away, so can't pull him out to show it to you right now. Here's a quick look at his matrix. And on the packaging, it's dubbed the Dark Matrix of Leadership. So it's literally just a dark reflection of the actual Matrix of Leadership. And so you can see the two side by side. Here that is. See, the colors are all different, you know, whereas this is very vibrant and eye-catching. This just kind of reeks of darkness. You know, you got this jet black, you got this really dark purple, and even this red crystal kind of appears to, like, pull in light more than it reflects it. So they did a good job of kind of making a mirror image of the regular Matrix. And just like the regular one, this core part can pop out so that you can place an Enigma of Combination, a Prime Master, even a Titan Master if you want to get weird in there. Here we've got the two primes together, just so you can see how they compare. And like I mentioned, Nemesis, despite being the same mold, just comes off as much bulkier than Optimus Prime does. And I think that's mainly due to the extra accessories, as well as the fact that his head is a little bit smaller on his body than Optimus's is, so it gives the impression of his body being bigger. I love the way these two contrast. I love that they're the same enough that you can tell that Nemesis Prime is a clone of Optimus, but also different enough to where you don't feel like you're just buying the same toy twice. Nemesis Prime toys are notorious for just being a black and teal repaint of any existing Optimus Prime toy. You know, it's kind of a quick cash grab. So I'm really happy they went above and beyond with this toy. You know, they included all the original accessories, added some new details to the toy in sculpting and deco, gave it a total of 4 new accessories, which I think is fantastic, and you know, they serve as homages to a lot of the different Nemesis Primes that came before. This toy, like I mentioned earlier, is an Amazon exclusive. It's $50 for Amazon's pricing. And honestly, I think it's completely worth it. You're getting just such a great figure. It comes from a good mold, except maybe the vehicle mode. And it just, you know, has so much more going for it. I think it overall pulls off, you know, what it's trying to do better than Optimus does. Because Nemesis doesn't have as iconic of a look as the Generation 1 Optimus Prime, there's not as much of an expectation on the coloration. Like, I know a lot of people weren't crazy about Optimus's gray fist and kind of some extra gray detailing that differentiates him from the masterpiece Optimus that he's kind of meant to emulate. Whereas Nemesis, his color patterns are a lot simpler. It's pretty much black with some highlights here and there. And, you know, the same expectations for his color scheme just aren't quite there. So if the details aren't exactly the same as, like, say, Masterpiece Nemesis Prime, it's not going to be as, nerd rage inducing. But yeah, I'm really happy with this purchase. I think everything about him is just fantastic. I do wish I didn't have the whole QC issue with his shoulders. I mean, it's not super noticeable. They just won't lock in against his torso as tightly as they should. But yeah, I mean, this toy hits every mark for me. You know, it has a great deco, you know, shows that they put a lot of effort in with resculpting and adding things, which to me is always a huge plus. I always find a direct redeco to be kind of the lazy way out, unless it's specifically to reference a character that already was a redeco, like, you know, the Seekers or a lot of the other classic Transformers toys. But anyway, I'd love to hear what you guys think of this toy. I hope you enjoyed the review. I hope it gave you a good look at it. Helps you decide if this is, you know, for you. Personally, like I already said, I fully recommend it to anybody that has $50 laying around. He kind of carries on the trend of Power of the Primes, where they're just kind of doing black redecos, like black evil redecos of the leader class figures. You know, you've got Rodimus Unicronus before him, and then, while not evil per se, the Comic-Con exclusive Optimus Primal is really just a black redeco of the retail release. So a little disappointing when you look at it that way. I was hoping to see a little more variation in the molds for the leader class. especially given how little time we had with this toy line now that it's coming to a close. You know, Titan's Return, for its flaws, really did just go ham with throwing new molds and new characters out there. Or, shouldn't say new characters per se, but characters that haven't been touched on in a while. I mean, whoever thought we were going to get a Hasbro release of Overlord? But I'll stop going on tangents. Back to this toy, though. This is actually the very first Nemesis Prime I've ever owned. Somehow, in all my years of collecting, I've never managed to pick up another one. At one point, my wife was going to buy me the Woolly Mammoth one from the old Universe toy line, but ended up like selling out or something before she could. Which is a shame, because trying to get the thing on the aftermarket now is going to cost you a pretty penny. As I said in the beginning, I don't know for sure which Nemesis this is supposed to be, if it is an existing one or just a brand new character. Though, that does give me a really good idea for a video. I don't know, how would you guys like to see a discussion on kind of the many different Nemesis Primes and how they're connected and not connected? That sounds like something fun to do. Alright, I'm going to stop going off on tangents now. I do really hope you guys enjoyed watching this. This is one of many reviews that I'm kind of behind on, and I got a lot of catching up to do. There's been a lot of new figures coming out recently. I've got some more Prime Wars stuff coming up. I have some new Studio Series toys. I have the new Cyberverse toys. Managed to get those just yesterday, so got a lot of those things coming down the pike once I can just find the time to do all the recording and the editing for it. And I even have a certain Beast Wars Masterpiece toy coming in the mail, and I really can't wait to review that one for y'all. But yeah, at the risk of rambling any further, I'm going to go ahead and end the video here. Feel free to leave any comments on it below. You know, tell me what you want to see next from me, whether it's, you know, review of a specific toy. Could even be an old toy. There's, you know, some old one you always wanted to get a good look at. If I have it, I'll do it. Or even discussion videos. I know I haven't made a lot of those because they just take absolutely forever to create, even with my kind of amateurish attempts at them. But with all that said, I will see you guys next time.